A Friday night volleyball showdown in Seattle. The defending Conference champ opens its road trip on the Pac-12 schedule. Number 3 Stanford visiting Washington. AJ Cannell, Nicole Rigoni, so glad to have you with us inside Alaska Airlines Arena. And Nicole, a 22-match Pac-12 win streak for Stanford. How does Washington finally become the team that puts a stop to it?
It starts from the service line for Washington. That's the best part of their game as a team. So if they can get Stanford out of system and make them more predictable, they could have a shot. But Stanford hasn't lost a set in their entire Pac-12 play. So it's going to be hard, and it's probably not going to start tonight.
Hard to lose much when you have Kendall Kipp on your team.
Kendall is such a special player. She is dominant from the front row, from the back row attacking, her blocking, and one area she's really improved upon is her serving. Her ace got her that offensive player of the week.
Somehow came with 20 kills and a career best 8 aces in a 3-set victory over Arizona in the most recent matchup. Offensive player of the week, Kendall Kipp. Meanwhile, Washington was already up against it. And as head coach Leslie Gabriel, who you see there, said, Lauren Bays is their rock defensively. She is out tonight with a concussion. Becomes even more important for May Pertovsky and company to pick things up.
May has been an excellent transfer for Washington, but she has a large load on her, and if she's going to be able to put a dent in this defense, she's going to have to come alive tonight.
Pertovsky, the right side transfer out of Michigan again. Stanford, Washington, Michigan. Cardinal riding high on a long conference winning streak in Washington. Finally be the team that puts it to it. First serve is coming up. Grosser of the Pac-12. It's number 3 Stanford at Washington here in beautiful Seattle. Your Friday evening. And the lineup for head coach Leslie Gabriel: Audra Wilmus, Molly Wilson, Kirsten Barton, Katie Wessels, Maddie Ensley, Elise Haney, and Grace Zilbert is the libero in place of Lauren Bays. And for 7th-year head coach Kevin Hambly, it's Cami Miner, Malia Tafunga, Kendall Kipp, Elia Rubin, McKenna Vicini, Katie Baird, and Elena Ogilvie. Stanford is missing Sammy Francis for the 2nd straight match. Head coach Kevin Hambly saying that she is out for at least this weekend. Francis, the great middle blocker, is 2nd in the league behind Magda Yalajeva of Washington State in hitting percentage. I'm just warming up for our match on Sunday with Yalajeva. Nicole getting an extra pronunciation in there early. And Stanford is such a great serving team, and they started out with an ace. It is the libero Ogilvie.
Ogilvie has a serve that has a little bit of side spin on it, which makes it really difficult to pass.
See how Washington handles it this time without their libero Bays, who's out with a concussion. Audra Wilmus gets a right side swing. It's 1-1. How does the absence of Bays impact this one?
Well, she is one of their best defenders, and she's in the top rankings in defense and in serving, and so having her presence on the court is definitely going to be an adjustment for this team because they're so used to having her.
Against this type of high-powered offense, led in part by Kendall Kipp, who's on the board now. Tough to be missing your starting libero.
Your libero is your anchor for your defense. So the setter runs that offense, but the libero is so important in the back row to keep things in line.
Now Kipp coming off the career best 8 aces in a 3-set match. Wilmus up too high this time. And a great crowd on hand tonight in Alaska Airlines Arena. This Washington team has been so good for so long, but interesting dynamic right now with a completely remade roster, a young, new-look team. And having trouble receiving serve in the early going. Good job to salvage it, though, and give themselves a chance on this point. Block touch against Elia Rubin. Now it's Maddie Ensley off the block. Diving save by the setter, Cami Miner. It's rolled over on the other side by Rubin. Now back to Ensley. Got some hands. Kept alive, though, in the back row by Baird. Ensley again hammers it through for the point.
Maddie Ensley going high off the hands, knowing that this block is so big for Stanford, and the best option she has is hitting those high hands, trying to tool.
Ensley came off the bench against Oregon State and came up with a season-high 18 kills. Audra Wilmus with an ace.
Earlier on, we talked about how the only way that Washington's going to be able to put some pressure on Stanford is if they do it from the service line, and so that has to be a focus for them.
That's a pancake there, but nobody else could get that ball, and so a point for Stanford. You talk about the service line against Stanford. One of the components to a great offense is being in system, and I don't know that there's a team in the country that passes better than Stanford.
The name of the game is passing and serving, so if you can control the ball on your side and have an unpredictable offense, it's going to be really hard for the other team to be able to track you. And with the weapons that Stanford has all across the front row, including Cami Minor when she could potentially dump along the net, they are tough to stop.
It's like an impenetrable fortress under seventh-year head coach Kevin Hambly, when you consider how many weapons they have and the fact that their ball control is just so good. They go back one, and the tip for McKenna Bacchini, who has to step up in the absence of their other top middle, Sammy Francis. Kirsten Barton, the freshman.
Kirsten Barton just taking a rip. No matter what that block looks like. Gets out hard and tools that outside hand of Cami Miners.
I was told by the folks at UW that in terms of production from a freshman, very impressive what Barton has done this year. Been a while since they had an outside hitter that's been that productive as a freshman. Now you see Cami Minor, who gets the previous point for Stanford, and she can just do so much for them. That's
being another weapon for Stanford. When they're in system, all players on the court, all five of them can be a weapon at any time, and that is so hard to stop.
No contact called there, so just out, and a point for Stanford again. Minor right now leads the nation in assists per set, close to 12. In conference play, she's up above 13, an insane number. Here she is with the setup for Katie Baird.
This play really started from number 13, Elia Rubin, in the defensive middle back. Watch her chase down that ball, digs this perfectly, and a beautiful set to Katie Baird to just take care of business. Textbook transition play for Stanford.
And that is blocked down and in on the middle quick. And the attempt by Wessels. Stanford has expanded its early lead to 4.
Katie Baird did such a great job helping out with that attack and getting 4 hands on that block.
Good pickup there on the pass by Barton, but Maddie Ensley off the tape, and it's 10-5 early timeout from Leslie Gabriel. As we said off the top, tough circumstances for Washington. They've been struggling this year without Lauren Bays, down early to number 3, Stanford. Nighttime, late start here on the campus of the University of Washington. And UW hoping to get off to a faster start than we've seen so far. Facing number 3, Stanford. tall task tonight, Nicole, for the Huskies.
Stanford just doesn't have a lot of weaknesses. They are hard to exploit at any part of their game. Their serving's tough. We just saw Cami Minor get an ace. Their defense is tough. They're blocking along the net. They're very tall. It's tough to get through.
Yeah, I mean, we were asking Kevin Hambly about some of the strengths and the development of some of his better players. You just started rattling off. You see a swing from Kirsten Barton there. You know, asked him about Cami Minor, and it felt like he basically mentioned every aspect of her game as far as what she's been improving as they get the block against Barton. And really, it's just Stanford has everyone back from last year. They have everything clicking in Washington. It's a totally new look in terms of the roster. We welcome the audience that was watching Utah take down Oregon State 3-1. Welcome to Seattle as Washington hosts number 3 Stanford. AJ Cannell alongside Nicole Rigoni on this Friday night matchup. Historically, it's much must-watch stuff here on the campus of UW. Just talking about, though, it's a little bit different circumstances this year. Washington, a team full of younger players, new players, against Stanford, which has won 22 straight Pac-12 matches.
One thing Kevin Hambly mentioned on that call, too, is not only has Cami Minor gotten better in every area, but every single player on this team has gotten better, and that's what makes them so strong, is that they've elevated their game even more, and they're so hungry to get into the Final Four this year and to be a potential contender for the national championship. And that's what this team is looking for. They're not trying to win a conference championship. They're not working towards a conference championship. They're working for a national title. And that's where the focus is in and day out in practice.
They played a non-conference schedule befitting of a team that has higher aspirations, including tonight. They played 14 matches, 7 have come against ranked opponents. And Stanford off to a fast start. Huskies have already had to use a timeout, and right now it's 14-7. And the serve coming up for the libero, Elena Ogilvie. Now, Washington, for those that have already been watching this, you've heard us mention it several times, but a new audience here. Washington without Lauren Bays, their captain and junior libero, who's been one of the best liberos in the league this year. She received a concussion in practice recently and is out probably short term, but out for tonight. Stanford is without Sammy Francis, who is being replaced by Malia Tafunga, who's really more of a utility player as the number 2 middle. So that is a big absence, you would think, potentially for Sunday's showdown in a top 5 matchup in Pullman against Washington State. Still like the Cardinals' chances tonight. That's a little bit long, though, from Elia Rubin. Then they call a contact and say point Stanford. Molly Wilson sets up Elise Haney, but it's Minor going second ball over. Head coach Kevin Hambly saying that sometimes Minor is a reluctant attacker, but that she's a really good one.
She can throw down that ball very hard with her left hand. She's a very physical athlete.
Kendall Kipp, coming off a career-high 8 aces performance, gets a sloppy receive and a point for the Cardinal. Again, it's 17-8. Second timeout from Leslie Gabriel.
One thing that Kevin Hambly told me is that when they got Kipp in the program, she could not even pass a free ball. So her back row game, her serving game, her out-of-system attacking, and her back row attacking has all been something that she has developed being at Stanford, and how Kevin Hambly has brought that out in her. And I mean, to be a weapon in the front row and a back row player and have the defense that Kendall Kipp has the serving that she has, she is the type of opposite hitter that can take you to the national championship.
Player development so crucial for this Stanford program, and it's all resulted in a 22-match winning streak dating back to a loss against Oregon last year. They were already so good last year. Of course, lost to San Diego in the regional final, but they returned 100% of the games or matches started from last year, 99.5% of the point production. Every important player from last year is back this year for Stanford, and they have national championship aspirations.
Kevin Hambley couldn't stress enough that every part of their game is better. But that means nutrition. That means their fitness. That means their skill level. Like, everything has elevated so much to get to this point. And for this group to be seniors, they're so hungry. They feel embarrassed that they've lost in the Elite Eight. You come to Stanford to go to a Final Four and to win a national championship. And this is the year they want to do it. And right now they're looking like a well-oiled machine in every aspect of their game. The things that they are working on are so detailed during practice. They're not working on the big picture. They got that down.
It was interesting listening to their head coach talk about it, really. A laser from Hensley there to get Washington a point and finally the side out. But the way he put it, they're in refinement mode now. And it's exactly what you're talking about there. They're working on the little details. They're at the end of the haircut when you're kind of snipping at like just the last strand to make sure it looks absolutely perfect. Back row attack from Kip, threads that down off the block on Washington's side. And again, back row production, whether it be defense, serving, passing, hitting, like you just saw there from Kendall Kip.
A really special group in all aspects. Most teams are just lucky to have two really great outsides, an awesome setter, and a good libero. Every position on this team is a potential candidate for an All-American award.
I mean, last year, you look at it, they had the setter of the year in Minor. They had the libero of the year in Elena Ogilvie, the coach of the year in Kevin Hambley, and the player of the year in Kendall Kip. And they're all back this year. That's what Washington is having to deal with tonight. Wilmus with the good defense, and that's shoved off the block and out. Point Huskies, and his solid crowd, really good crowd, gets to applaud. Washington this year not bringing back much. They lost their top 4-point scorers from last season. They had 11 players appear in at least 50% of sets last year. 3 are still on the roster, and 2 of those 3 were available. In fact, now just 1 of those 3 with Lauren Bays being out. I was going to say also, keep in mind Amani Bush, season-long injury, was supposed to be their top returning point getter. And so basically the entire team from last year for the Huskies is gone right now.
Well, they have a new coach now. Like you said, most of their players are gone. They're in a rebuilding year. They are trying to have a new identity under a new coach. And all of that working into it is making a transition tough for Washington, but I have a lot of faith in this program. They've always historically been a very good team, typically in the top 25. They're going to be just fine in the years to come.
Nice decision there from Molly Wilson, who's stepping into LMA Powell's shoes this year. Now, Leslie Gabriel, as you take a look at the replay here, in her first year, I mean, the good thing with her is she's been responsible for so many wins historically for this Washington program as both a player and an assistant coach, and I think there's a lot of trust in place even though she's a first-year head coach.
Absolutely. She's played in this program. She knows how to win. She's had mentors like Jim McLaughlin and Keegan Cook. She knows this game inside and out, and she's going to do a fantastic job with this program.
Good job, Ensley, with the defense. That is stuffed down, though, by Tafunga and company. Shout out Malia Tafunga, who's not even a middle by trade. She's really a utility player for Stanford, has done it all during her career.
To be a utility player, that means you are good at every part of the game, but not great, but you're good at every area. And so you can step into roles when you need. When your number's called, you're getting into the game and you're making a difference. And utility players tend to play a lot because things can go wrong, setters can go down. And she set at one point for Cami Minor when she had a little bit of an injury going on. And she's played right side, she's played outside. And so she's been an impact player for this program.
Minor picking up her second ace of the first set on that last point. And yeah, Kevin Hambley, who's seen quite a bit of high-quality volleyball and different players who have done things at the highest possible level. I think he was saying he's never quite seen something like Tafunga's career, playing all those different positions at times and in high leverage situations. It's one thing to come in garbage time right at the end, but I mean, Tafunga is somebody who, as you said, she's been the setter in the past when necessary, and she is playing middle tonight with the absence of Sammy Francis. Handled well by Wilmus. Now it's Kipp. It was blocked, but out of bounds. And a point for Stanford. They're up by double figures in the first set. Not only has Stanford not dropped the Pac-12 set so far, in their most recent match against Arizona, which was obviously a sweep, the Wildcats got to 23 in the final set. They were the first team to even get to 23 in a set against Stanford. The vast majority of their sets so far have been just like this in league play. They've been blowouts.
Kevin Hambley has been very focused in one area of the mindfulness of this group. That's something that he wants this team to grow with, is not playing around with another team, not letting them think that they have a chance. He wants them to step on the gas, take care of business, and be done with it, win the game, and go. And so they are doing that right now. 3 sets and they're out.
It's easy to take for granted, right, when it's going well and when you're executing, but in a way easier said than done to not let your foot off the pedal a little bit. Stanford has not done that so far this year. Granted, it's still early in Pac-12 play. Wilson tight to the net, salvages that one, and sets up Wilmus. Wilson to Wilmus there, point Huskies.
A little off-speed shot from Wilmus right here. Seeing the little bit of a hole and using her toolbox.
It's got to be a big night tonight if Washington has any chance of competing from Wilmus, because she's their best passing pin on a night where Lauren Bays, again, their star libero, is out. But a set point now for the Cardinal. This is Wilmus.
Speaking of Wilmus, finding the floor on this play.
I mean, she's 3 for 5. Maddie Ensley 4 for 8. Washington not bad offensively, but Stanford is hitting .591 with another set point. Loading up for that one is Rubin, the loudest smash of the night on set point. 25-15 Stanford.
What a beautiful set across the court from Cami Minor. Watch the strength she has to shoot an in-tempo set. Elia Rubin taking care of business.
As did Stanford, hitting officially now over 600 in that first set. And you see the result. Number 3, Stanford coming into the University of Washington, and the Cardinal winning its 13th consecutive conference set to begin the season in set 1, but then Washington earning the first set victory for any team against Stanford this year in league play in set 2. Now, you talked about Stanford's larger aspirations, and this Cardinal squad played a brutal non-conference schedule. They've already faced 5 top 10 opponents and have a top 5 matchup scheduled for Sunday. Will be on the call for in Pullman. Big victories for Stanford already this year against number 7 Texas and number 2 Louisville on the road. Talked about how good Washington historically has been at home, of course, and they're 3-0 this year. Stanford is 7-0 in road matches this year.
It's tough to be 7-0 in road matches.
With the schedule they played, it certainly is. It's Kipp smashing that one off the top of the block and down.
Kendall looked incredibly smooth on that play, and you can see the Stanford Cardinal has a lot more focus going into this set than they did in the second set. Trying to redeem themselves and not make this go to 4 or 5. You don't want to do that in Alaska Airlines Arena with the fans that the Huskies have.
Washington went into the net there. We were told during the intermission that replay review is back up and running. It wasn't working for the first 2 sets and had an impact on a controversial call late in the second set on a ball that appeared to hit Audra Wilmus on the way down but was not reviewable, so it went to Washington as Kip misses into the net with the serve. There we go. DV Sport has apparently troubleshooted things. Apparently here on 90s night, they're going Windows 95 down there or something. The replay review not working in the first 2 sets.
Speaking of 90s night, what was your favorite 90s band or singer or pop star?
All I know is I was thinking 90s night, what comes into my mind? I think about Macarena.
What did you think about Macarena?
Yeah, that's what came into my head right away.
That is so funny.
What about you?
Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, the divas in the boy band.
Sure, also 90s, just like Macarena.
Yeah.
As down, or at least that was my childhood, as Katie Baird goes down the line.
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo. We were doing a little Seinfeld conversation earlier, pre-match. As Ensley looking for a touch there, but didn't get it. Speaking of the 90s, here was what Nicole was doing in the 90s. Apparently this came up on the broadcast with Rich Burke at Oregon State. Or was it Oregon?
Oregon State versus Oregon.
Oregon State versus Oregon. You guys were talking about this?
Yeah. Rich had no idea I was a figure skater for 10 years.
I didn't either. We're both getting educated.
Prior to the volleyball days, I was a figure skater for 10 years, and I am not kidding you, though. That sport makes you so incredibly athletic in way different ways than you would be if you were maybe a basketball player or a soccer player.
Well, let's get back to that and more on this match coming up next with Stanford off to a strong start here in the third set. Speaking of market, Pike Place Market on display. Now in the northeast part of the city, the University of Washington, with Nicole Ragoni, AJ Cannell strong start to the third set for Stanford. We speculated they got a strong talking to during the set intermission after dropping their first set of league play, and they combined for a block in the middle against Haney. Again, a good job by Katie Baird, making her presence known in the middle, sliding over there.
Solid analysis there.
Yeah, I'm not trying to go for your job.
No, that was great. That was great. Way to step in. I like it.
All right, you can do play-by-play for this point if you want. No, I won't make you do that.
Yeah. I mean, if you want me to, I can, but I like to stay in my lane.
All right, now, Stanford in the fast lane again on an 8-2 lead to start the third set. Here's Ensley, had a strong night so far and continues it.
Every time she gets a kill, she is fired up, trying to keep her team focused. And her main job right now on the outside is going after these high hands and making that defense scramble. And that's what she's been doing all night.
Yeah, she's not someone that's going to jump over the top of the block, but has a number of shots in her arsenal, can attack those hands. And Ensley is out wide with the serve.
I like the aggressiveness from her serve. That wasn't that far out, and she was trying to really paint the lines on that and get Stanford out of system.
And Stanford is just an insane ball control team, serve receive team. It's always the first thing coaches focus on, Nicole. and Stanford is just so good at it. How much pressure does that put on you as a serving team to try to be more aggressive when you know that you're facing great passers?
It's really hard. It's really hard when you are going against a team that is exceptional at passing like Stanford is. You know when you go back to the service line that you really got to be targeting a different part of their game. Maybe they're not as great on their left side. They're not as great on their right side. These players aren't just going out there and serving a player. They're going after maybe an angle on their body that they're maybe not as good at. That is the level of scouting reports that happen in the Pac-12.
They had to wipe off the wet spot after Grace Zilbert went headlong into the scorer's table. Pretty tough when you face a team of Stanford's caliber and you look at the scoreboard, and this is what it looks like. Just in terms of, obviously can come back in the fourth set and have a chance, but going to have a lot of things go right against a team like Stanford when you're in this type of hole. There's an ace, and Washington cuts into it further, 10-5. It's Maeve Griffin.
Maeve Griffin stepping in and getting that service ace. That's the goal for Washington right now. Get them out of system, and if they can get an ace, even better.
Got him out of system twice. Can Rubin get this over? Yes. Now it's Barton, blocked back but out. Barton's been very confident tonight.
The game plan is getting Stanford out of system. And Maeve Griffin is doing a great job for her team from the service line. And right now they're wiping up a wet spot on Washington, on Stanford's side. Those wet spots can be tricky to get up sometimes. Look at Kevin Hambley down there scrubbing.
Especially when your team is giving up a run.
He's got some great shoe swag, too. I love it when the coach has got good kicks on.
Griffin is feeling it. Griffin had a big service run to close out set 2 and really give Washington the cushion, the arch support they needed to close out the second set.
Griffin serving like this just shows you how tough of her serve is to get a team like Stanford out of rhythm from the service line.
That is just out of the swing from Baird, and Griffin has served Washington right back into the third set against number 3 Stanford. "5-0 Huskies run." Baird this time through the block and stops the run. That was actually the same run that Griffin had late in the second set, a 5-0 run, so 4 points on her serve, 2 sets in a row. Block against Barton. Second ball, Grace Zilbert. Barton again. It's dug out by Rubin. Awkward set, though, from Minor to Kipp, and now they run the middle. Katie Wessels. This is looking like a Washington team that has made some strides, showing some growth for this younger team.
The name of the game is getting them out of system, and Washington's doing that right now, and they're able to run their offense, which is putting pressure on Stanford, and they aren't becoming predictable. They're able to use their middles.
That little tug-of-war battle. Right side swing for Baird. Leslie Gabriel, first-year head coach, 27th overall season for Washington, saying that all I ask is that each player gets a little bit better each game and each week. Are we seeing some of that growth emerge at the right time against number 3 Stanford? That one gets lost in the campfire there.
That serve from Katie Baird had some serious heat on it.
Stanford third in the conference in aces per set. First in the league in kills and assists. They lead the country. Second in the league, third in the country in attack percentage. And now the serve getting Washington back out of system and Stanford back in a controlling position.
It all starts from the serve here from Katie Baird to get Elia Rubin this fun attack along the net. Those were my favorite. Those were so fun.
You handle a couple of those even as a setter?
Absolutely.
Kirsten Barton, who is a phenomenal indoor and beach player, chosen for the U.S. National Team Development Program in both indoor and beach, coming through her prep school days. She was on the serve there, but quick side out for Stanford.
I love this set from Cami Minor all the way across the court, turns it back to Kendall Kipp. That is a tough set to make.
Buskey's answer, back set for Wilmes.
Right now they are exchanging kill for kill. Washington is having great ball control on their side, and they're able to run their offense. Molly Wilson putting her hitters in a solid situation to be able to score.
Wilson up to 21 assists. We're seeing one of the best performances for her as a first-year starter at sophomore. Wilmes with the block on the right side.
Not only is she producing offensively, but defensively she is coming in clutch for Washington.
7 kills, 333, 4 digs, and now a block for Wilmes. Tight to the net, but handled by Minor, and a power tip to the back corner by Elia Rubin.
Now serving Kendall Kipp.
Wilmes has the hot hand right now.
Molly Wilson, setter for Washington, is doing everything she can to get the ball to Audra Wilmes. Watch this set across the court. Audra Wilmes having the hot hand.
Coach Leslie he's been looking for more consistency from her pins, like Wilmes, who's been in and out of the lineup in the front row this year, but the big arm for Wilmes clearly there. That has never been a question. Rubin with the big answer.
It is kill for kill right now, and I am enjoying seeing the versatility of both Washington's pins and Stanford's pins. No one's in a really big rhythm.
And Stanford without middle blocker Sammy Francis. Washington is missing libero Lauren Bays, and May Pertovsky went down earlier in the match, their great right side hitter. There's Bays laughing with Amani Bush, who is their top returning attacker, underwent season-ending shoulder surgery on September 1st. Back row, Kipp, block gets a hold of it. Now Wilson runs the middle, Elise Haney.
I told you earlier, the only way to try to contain Kendall Kipp is to slow her down, and this is exactly what they wanted from the defense. Slow her down a bit. Let's get a good dig and run our middles and have some offensive success.
Bolstered by the crowd here on a Friday night, Washington has stayed alive and been really competitive despite being shorthanded against Stanford. Take a look now at where things stand overall and the outlook for some of the top Pac-12 teams, including Stanford.
Well, you all should get used to hearing me say this. Another crazy week in college volleyball. This season has had more parity than I could have imagined. So let's start at the top with my latest Power 10, where the top 3 remain as is. Nebraska and Wisconsin remain undefeated at the top. Huskers had a little scare on Purdue's home court, picked up 2 more Big Ten wins this weekend, and Wisconsin was dominant with 2 sweeps. And at number 3, Stanford, 2 top 10 wins and 2 losses to top 10 teams this season. Okay, time for the shakeups. Washington State will check in at number 4. The Cougars took down Oregon on the Ducks' home court to move up, along with Louisville and Florida losing last week. This is a talented squad, everyone, and it sets up another top 5 battle between Wazoo and Stanford this weekend.
So, Nicole, you hear it there from Michaela Chester, and that's what we have in store for us on Sunday. We'll both be there, so looking forward to it in Pullman.
I am so excited for that match. I hope they completely pack the gym. 3 versus 4. That's what every broadcaster wants in America when we're talking volleyball. That's like a Final Four matchup. It's a huge game for Washington State and a huge game for Stanford to see really who takes the lead in the conference.
Kevin Hambley said, though, they were not going to overlook the Washington Huskies. He said, if we have a rival in the conference, it would probably be Washington. Certainly a recent history where Washington won on a recent 5-match winning streak in this series as well.
You can't count Washington out. This program has a rich history in being so good. And these players, watch those former All-Americans that have graduated. They know what it takes to win. They're just rebuilding and figuring out what's going to work for this team, trying to find this identity under a new head coach. They have all the tools. They have all the skills. It's just putting all the pieces together, and the injuries just aren't helping.
Off a Stanford timeout, Ensley. Nice low serve. It's an ace. The 6th for the Huskies.
Hensley will serve for the tie.
The one thing that will not change, regardless of who's actually out there on the court, the pressure that can be placed on the opposing team in this building when things get close. You can really get tight out there no matter who you are. Big swing, though, for Katie Baer, the redshirt senior, 3-time All Pac-12 team member.
And also Malia Tatunga. Bevan serving.
Player of that caliber, Katie Baird, who, to have somebody like that is not even necessarily your top option. I mean, she would be the #1 option on almost any team in the country.
That's what makes this team so special, is that they have so many hitters from every angle. When the pass gets crazy, things are out of system, Cami Minor has many hitters, many loaded weapons ready to score.
Been mixing up and adjusting a little bit with how they're setting Baird. Coach Hambley told us that they experimented with setting her quicker balls, but they decided to go back to higher balls for today's match because the quick tempo wasn't working. That was a big time left side kill, though.
But when we're talking higher, it's not that much higher. The ball is still going very fast from Cami Minor to the outside.
Now Minor gets the ace. For Cami Minor, that is her 3rd in the first 3 sets. Came at a crucial time.
Cami Minor finding Audra Wilmus's weakness in her passing game.
Goes to Barton there. Now Barton gets a kill.
Washington not going away. They are trying to get their offense going and to get the best possible pass so they can put their best hitters in the appropriate situation to score and to go back and serve tough and try to get Stanford out of system.
Oh, they can't do it there. Too easy for Kendall Kipp. Kendall Kipp hitting over 500 and has 13 kills.
Such a solid pass from Elena Ogleviv, giving Kendall Kipp a perfect set from Cami Minor, and Kendall Kipp just goes and does what Kendall Kipp does.
She is unreal. Does she get talked about enough? I mean, there's just so much to talk about with this Stanford team. But Kip, the defending Pac-12 Player of the Year for a reason.
You can't not talk about her because her game is so complete. Her blocking, her back row attacking, her front row attacking, being able to attack on the outside like she just did in that previous point. You can't say enough good things about her.
All right, here we go. Wilson thought she had a pancake. And Washington, if they want to, after the replay system was down earlier, they can challenge this if they want. Leslie Gabriel asking. And now they're discussing. And the down official, Sergio Gonzalez, saying, well, if you feel that way, then show us the challenge card. And that's what she does. Hey, at this stage, that's such a crucial point. Your player saying she got under that one, gotta challenge it if you're Coach Gabriel.
It's made players really honest. So when their coach does look at them and say, hey, did you really get it up? Was that ball really in? They really got to look at their coach and be like, hey, no, don't use it. Or yes, that was absolutely up. Risk it.
I mean, to me, there's no doubt that her hand probably made contact with it, but did she actually keep it up without it hitting the floor? I'm not so sure.
It looks questionable to me. It would be hard to overturn that call.
I would agree. I don't see enough there to overturn it when you consider the call on the floor was a point for Stanford. Now, if it were to get overturned, it wouldn't be a point for Washington. It would just be a replay point. And that is Sergio Gonzalez down there taking a look. Kaylee Kimura is the first referee up top. Line judges Evan Ritchie and Jen McIntosh make up our officiating crew tonight. Replay system was down for the first two sets, so both teams had both challenges remaining coming into the third set. I still think in this important of a spot, and your player saying she got it up, if you're Coach Gabriel, it makes sense to challenge it.
Absolutely, and if anything, it's a timeout. Both sides can talk it over, and maybe it's a momentum shift for Washington.
Now they're taking a long look at it, that's for sure. Important call, got to get this one right at this stage of the set. The call stands, it'll be just the score you see now. It'll be a 4-point Stanford lead. If they overturn it, goes back to a 3-point lead and replay the point. And the call stands. Must-have side out for Washington. Baird could pretty much put this away with a great serve. It's a good one, but handled by Wilmus. And now Barton backside.
Barton's been having a solid night. Completely fearless. I love how they're moving her around. They have her on the right side right here, causing a hole in the block, taking care of business.
That side spin serve from Barton. Now Kip, though, over the block and good for the kill.
Kendall Kip is so smooth from the opposite side that she makes it look easy. She makes it look like you and I can just go out there and attack at the level that she attacks.
Just a nice little casual swing. Almost like a warm-up drill, but in reality, much more difficult. Going back to her. Give her one more. 15th kill for Kendall Kipp, and Stanford in control with 5 set points.
She's hitting 619 in this third set. Cammie just throws the ball back to her, and she finds exceptional angles when she attacks.
Kipp is en fuego tonight, and Stanford closing in on a 2-1 lead. Coach Gabriel calling timeout with her team trailing by 5, down to set point here in the third set. A moment or two there where Washington looked like they had a chance to overtake Stanford and go ahead in this match, but Cardinal just been too tough in the serve and pass game, and Kendall Kipp has been too tough down the stretch of the third set, and they close it out with an ace. Stanford closes strong off an ace by Elena Ogilvy and wins the third set 25-19. Probably a closer set than that final score of the set would indicate. We go to the fourth set coming up. Well, about to start the fourth set. Let's take a look. This is the late game of the night at some of the other scores from around the Pac-12. And number 4, Washington State, the headline, blowing out Cal, winning each of those sets by at least 5. Took the first set 25-10, and setting up the potential unbeaten top 4 matchup on Sunday in Pullman against Stanford. Number 5, Oregon also taking care of business against Colorado. And how about, you all see Utah winning, but both Arizona schools beating the LA schools.
Not very many times do you see that happen. I'm happy for the Arizona schools.
Showing they're a force to be reckoned with right now. This conference has a lot of depth to it. Number 1 RPI conference in the country. That Stanford-Washington State match will be at noon on Sunday from Bowler. Taking a look right now at RPI in the NCAA. The top-ranked teams as of October 1st. You see Stanford not only with wins against Louisville and Texas, but those were both road victories.
It's fun to see Stanford and Washington State and Oregon in the top 10. This electric Friday night crowd. Tough task for Washington, a team that has not lost at home this year, but a younger, newer team dealing with multiple injuries against the number 3 team in the country. Is there some more excitement in store for this crowd, or will Stanford quickly close the door in set 4? Ogilvy, the reigning libero of the year in the league, had the serve. Now Wilmus, this time they answer. Wilmus, who's really gotten it going from the right side, but blocked by the combination of Rubin and McKenna-Vicini. Tough serve down the line. Maddie Ensley pounds it through. She is a very smart hitter with a very powerful arm. When she goes back to swing, she is looking for all 4 hands and where the weakness might be. It's a high-level outside hitter.
It's got to be tough as a blocker, right? Waiting for that, knowing you're probably going to get tooled off of.
Well, they're doing everything they can to not get tooled.
Speaking of it, Kendall Kipp, tools for the kill.
Big swing by Elia Rubin. Watch Kendall Kipp get ready to attack this ball very quickly and still finds the court, even on a two-step approach.
Washington late in recovering there, but in general, as they mop up the court again, as a blocker, how do you try to avoid getting tooled?
Well, first off, you have to make sure your hands are pushed back into the middle of the court and that they're angled directly, like your thumbs are up, your hands are facing the middle of the court, so that when the ball does contact your hands, it's going down middle of the court on your side, and that is a textbook play for 13. Exactly what I'm talking about. Elia Rubin, if you can watch her hands in this block, they are faced back into the court, so she is able to score for her team and defend.
Her coach said at times last year as a freshman her blocking was a liability. Not the case this year. Stanford is already so good, but they've grown so much. Vicini, the slide kill, and got that one up high on Grace Zilbert. Stanford erasing hope early in the fourth set, although Washington had been down 10-3 in the third, made that set close. Gonna need to put a stop to this soon here in the fourth set, down 2-1. Now, Nicole, you take a look at this Washington roster, think about what they lost coming from last year. Players like Hoffman, Powell, Grote, even Crenshaw. 2 years ago, Drexel. How do they start to retool, rebuild their roster, and get back to what they had over the last few years?
They have a young team, so they got to develop what they currently have, and then they have to recruit. They have to get some good players in and to be able to come out here, make a difference. Right now with the injuries, it's not helping. Imani Bush was a big part of that team last year, and she's not able to play this year. So you put Imani Bush out here, you put Lauren Bays out here, and maybe things are different.
Of course, May Pertovsky going down in the opening set. We were told it's a precaution that she's being held out, but out with a foot injury. It was suffered earlier in this match. Wilson to Elise Haney. You know, the adjustment you have to make as a team when you go from a 5-year starting setter and multi-time former setter of the year in the league, LMA Powell, to just the developing player in Molly Wilson. That's a dramatic adjustment, but Wilson has had some good moments tonight.
Yes, she has. She's getting her hitters in good situations and putting them against blockers that may not be as strong of a blocker for Stanford, even though every single one of their players are a strong blocker. But, I mean, you want to target Cami Minor. She's the smallest blocker on their team. You want to go after fill-in player Malia Tufunga in the middle when she's in there, because she's filling in for Sammy Francis. So Molly Wilson's doing everything she can to put her best hitter against their weakest blocker, which is, again, hard to come by on the Stanford side. There aren't a lot of weak blockers on their side.
Speaking of Tufunga, who's more of a utility player by trade, filling in for the injured Sammy Francis as the M2 for Stanford. The strategy from head coach Kevin Hambly this weekend, he said, at least for now, they're not going to play the matchups as much as they normally would. They're going to start Tufunga, and they have in each set right back, keep her out of the front row as long as possible, and just protect her as much as possible. Keep her between Kendall Kipp and Katie Baird. We'll see if they have to adjust off of that at all against Washington State on Sunday. But for now, a different type of approach when you have basically a non-middle as one of your two middles. Something that Washington State was actually dealing with due to injuries last year. Big solo block from Haney in the middle.
This block feels good for Haney. Watch her eye work here. She's got her eyes on Kendall Kipp, and she reaches into the court, goes straight down. Stuff block.
It's Baird from the outside. You know, by the way, for Stanford, talk about preseason injuries. We mentioned Imani Bush on the Husky side. Annabelle Smith also out for the year. She was splitting time last season as one of their middles in the lineup, and so that's why you kind of get down to a situation where you're playing a non-middle as a middle, because really two of their three normally healthy middles are out, including a season-ending injury for Annabelle Smith from the preseason. But the Francis injury out for this weekend, but didn't seem like a super long-term thing from what we were told, at least. They stuffed Barton, and Stanford back up to a 3-point lead.
Show your Huskies some love, fans.
Got to give the crowd credit. You could feel the juice in this building.
They want this for the Huskies. Even when I was playing here, coming to the UW Stadium, Alaska Airlines Arena was always tough. Pulled off a couple wins here, but those losses, I mean, their crowd really helps them out.
Pretty big point right here for Washington to stay in this match. Down 4. Tough serve. Wilson, creative. Now it's Minor going back through the block, and Washington in the net. Stanford clamping down on a Washington team that's already used one timeout in the set. Little extra discussion there between Leslie Gabriel and Sergio Gonzalez, the second referee. Kelly Bellardi, a setter, reserve setter, playing in her 5th match of the year. Had a nice serve previously, that time goes into the net. And now Washington needs the magic of Maeve. They've got 4-point runs on her serve, 5-0 runs overall in each of the last couple of sets out of Griffin. Big side out right now for Stanford. The puck was waiting for a Minor. They read that one.
Solid eye work from the block for the Huskies. Watch number 9 and number 11 here. Number 9 and number 12 for the Huskies side. They stayed with Cami Minor. When she went up, they went up.
Well, Coach Gabriel was talking about it. Of course, she was one of the best blockers in the history of at the time, the Pac-10. The adjustment for those freshman middles having to read the setter. They did so there. In that case, it was Wessels. That one somehow snuck through over the top of the tape and down. Got to tighten that thing up if you're Washington in terms of the construction of the net in your home building. But all kidding aside, a big side out there for Stanford on the kill from Kip. It's Barton.
Barton been a little quiet, but she gets the ball and she throws it an off-speed shot, messing up Stanford's defense a bit.
Molly Wilson serving.
Yeah, no, I think it's
Overpass, and it's Barton.
As a team, Washington is a very tough serving team, and they are going after it from the service line. It's their best bet to get Stanford out of system.
I think it's, you know what, the result may or may not actually go their way tonight. We'll see. Still lots of time left, but serving's been impressive against this Stanford team.
They've grown a lot. I did their Oregon versus Washington match, and they already look better.
The defense and passing haven't been perfect, and that one was a missed opportunity. Great dig from Ensley. Zilbert couldn't keep it in play, but you've seen absolutely evidence of growth from Washington. Put it in perspective, Stanford gets aced 0.7 times per set. That's a microscopic at this level. So far, Washington has 6 aces.
That is a heck of a statistic, AJ. Where did you find that?
I mean, come on. Just do my job here.
Yeah, that is a great statistic.
I appreciate it. Stanford's got 12 aces tonight, though. On the other end, Wilmus plays the angle. One-arm dig by Ruben. Stanford scrambles it, and it's the campfire. Roast some marshmallows.
I can't get over that statistic. That is awesome.
What about this last point, though? Crucial point loss.
Communication errors just can't happen. You cannot have that ball hit the floor, especially when you're playing against a team like Stanford. Every point counts. That's a free ball. That is an opportunity for them to transition, have a perfect pass, go to their go-to hitter, or at least put someone in a good situation to be able to score.
I don't know about you, my coach would always tell me, I'd rather have 3 of you crash into each other going for a ball than that.
Without a doubt, AJ, without a doubt.
Barton, though, you gotta love what she's brought. She's hitting over 300. That's her 13th kill.
Hitting over 300 against Stanford is a big deal. This block is very disciplined, and she is making their block not look as disciplined as it typically is.
After that 25-15 first set, Washington has admirably competed in all the sets since. See that big arm from Wilmus? It's the pickup from Ogilvy. Now Rubin, block gets it, shoveled up by Rubin. It's Kip in transition. It's a diving play from Wilson. But it's down on the Huskies side. The angle wasn't there from Wilmus. Strong point there from both teams. Great defense on each side. Saw a shot of Kendall Kipp, who has 20 kills and just 2 errors tonight on 30 swings, hitting 600. Back to Kipp. I mean, the rate that she is terminating is insane. Had 20 kills in 3 sets against Arizona.
She just kicks out so hard, is ready to hit, out of system, go-to hitter. That is one of my favorite angles. I feel like she doesn't use the line enough, and when it's open, she's just got to rip it. And heads up to the defensive player in the left back.
I mean, as you've been saying, the great thing about Kipp, it seems like she just has every shot in her bag. Stanford up by 5, looking to close things out. Stanford has a 5-point lead. Washington forced to use its final timeout in the 4th set. But look, it's tough to sit here and talk all day, wax poetic about moral victories and good job, good effort, that type of thing. But that being said, I mean, a lot of credit given how shorthanded Washington is and the caliber of the opponent they're facing. What we've seen from the Huskies has been of high quality tonight, regardless of the result. Kill from Ensley, and Stanford into the net anyway.
Maddie Ensley has had a heck of a night. Been super impressed with her versatility and her ability to score. She's gone off the hands. She's drilled the ball like that when she has the opportunity with a hole in the block. She's been very impressive.
Well, every time it seems like Washington's out of a set, they inch their way back in. Grace Zilbert has the ace. Almost you want to stop yourself from talking about how this one feels like it's headed towards, okay, Stanford going to close it out soon. Well, hey, 3-point set here, and one thing turns a certain way, all of a sudden could be headed toward a 5th set. Who knows? They roof Kipp.
A solid block from Maddie Ensling, keeping her eyes on Kendall Kipp. Watch Maddie in white on the right-hand side of your screen just go straight up with Kendall Kipp and turning the ball back into the court on the block.
The pressure component of this, all of a sudden, if it does get close here or stay close, 1 set away from the 5th. Something to be excited about. Washington hanging around in the 4th set. It's 16-14. They rattled off 3 straight coming off their final timeout. And forcing a Stanford timeout. Ensley, top of the block and down. 4-0 run for Washington. It's the third straight set in which they've won at least 4 straight points.
You can tell Maddie Ensling wants the ball. She's doing everything she can defensively, but then when she gets up, she is pounding it off the block, and she's like, give me the ball. I want this. This is my moment.
A net clipper from the serve by Zilbert Wilson. Can't keep it in play, and Stanford sides out. Stanford hitting .409 as a team. Kip at .545 with 21 kills. Washington at .239 and being out-aced 12-7. But the Huskies are staying alive right now. And again, another ball hits the floor that Washington had a chance to get.
A lucky moment for Stanford. McKenna Vicini going up here, keeping her eyes on the middle blocker. And again, a communication error on the Washington side.
That's 2 recent points, and that's just luck. If you want to factor in the credit for trying to serve low and tight to the net, credit Kendall Kipp, but in terms of Washington, they're probably thinking that's bad luck. Had a few of these moments, Nicole, as they wipe off the court again, which has been an issue plaguing us most of the night, where all of a sudden, hey, Washington run, they're back in it, it's a 2-point set, and then, I guess that's volleyball. I'm not making an earth-shattering point there, but it's been kind of back and forth tonight for sure. Oh, Ensley found the angle. You know what I mean? It's 4 points. It feels hopeless. All of a sudden, the crowd roars, and they've sided out, and they're right back in it.
The Huskies are not going away without a fight, and Maddie Ensling is keeping her team in it. Watch her power through this block.
Seen some serious fight from the Dogs tonight. Big miss serve, though, from Wilmus. And also credit Stanford, probably not having their best fastball tonight. You see the talent and the ability to execute even when they don't have their best stuff. Still poised to close out Washington on the road. Ensley got a big rip and Stanford into the net.
Such a heavy arm from Ensley. When she hits the ball, there's some serious speed behind it.
Who can generate the service run for Washington? Ensley this year, 6 aces, 2 service errors. Baird rolls it over. That's controlled well by Wilmus. Now it's Barton. Block is there. Washington communicates this time. Barton again. Blocked again. Stanford into the net again.
Stanford is not playing the clean volleyball in this set that they typically have been playing. Watch Stanford in the net.
Maybe touching the antenna there.
It looked like both Vicini and Cami Minor were both in the net on that play.
Normally impenetrable serve receive. They're ready for Wilson. Washington scrambles. That was close to going out. But Stanford has to play it. Diving attempt. Washington nearly kept that point alive again, but it's just out on the far side.
I love the fans in this stadium because they truly know what's going on. And Washington being so scrappy on every single play. A smart tip from Katie Baird, but just not enough communication on Washington's side.
And again, enough laying out on that last point that they have to bring the towels out. It's set up for a warm few days compared to what you might expect early October. Temperatures going to touch the 70s, I think, over the weekend. Barton tight to the net, put in a tough spot. Gonna have to go back at it here, out of system, and Stanford a little miscommunication. You're right, it has not been the cleanest set or cleanest match by the lofty standards of this Stanford Cardinal program.
They're struggling a little bit on their serve receive. Their passers are jerking up a little bit. They're not able to push that ball forward, so it can give Cami Minor more options in the front row. They become very predictable offensively.
It's Baird getting a piece of Griffin there. That was a key side out because Maeve Griffin had been responsible for long service runs earlier in the match. Can't do it there, and Stanford is 3 points away from the match. Another difficult serve from Cami Minor. That is her 4th ace. Minor and Baird each have 4 for Stanford, which has 14 as a team. It's out. Stanford looking to stretch its conference winning streak to 23. Last lost against a Pac-12 opponent over a year ago, September 25th, 2022 at Oregon. Top 5 showdown against Washington State at 12 o'clock on Sunday on the Pac-12 networks. Ensley digs Baird. Great all-around night for Ensley. Kip goes slow. Zilbert second ball. Wilmus tips it right to Baird. All the options for Minor. Why not go to Kip? Dug out by Ensley. Barton is blocked. Long rally here. Wilson. Barton rolls it. Kept alive by the diving Minor. Shoved across. It's a joust situation. Thrown off the block by Wilmus. And again, and it's Minor. Now here's Baird. Ensley in the back row again. Outside, Barton is blocked. Stanford stepping up.
The best rally of the night. The scrappiness on both sides was so intense. Big swings, keeping the ball alive. But that block by Katie Baird finishing it. I love how fired up she gets at the end.
The decisive blow in all likelihood. Washington used both timeouts early in the set. On match point, Baird into the net. The biggest ovation for a missed serve I've heard in a while.
I told you it's tough playing here. These fans are smart. They know when to get after the other team.
But the Huskies need 3 more here on match point. They won't get it. Barton misses the serve. And Stanford, although they dropped a set for the first time in league play, takes care of business in Seattle to set up the big one in Pullman in a couple of days.
Really impressed with how Washington played tonight. Despite all the injuries, they came out, they swing very tough, and were able to serve tough as well. Stanford is just so dominant. All their areas are just sealed in tight. Their outsides are good, their middles are good, their setting is phenomenal, and their ball control is great, but just not enough tonight for Washington.
Not quite enough, and we saw a whole lot of Kendall Kipp tonight, the Offensive Player of the Week, with 21 more kills. For Nicole Rigoni, producer Jackson Hazelnuts, and our entire Pac-12 Network crew, AJ Cannell saying so long from Seattle. Stanford wins it 3-1.